At Humana, our Medicare Advantage plans give you coverage and care you can count on, along with guided support to help you feel your best. You could have a plan with a $0 premium or an all-in-one plan that may include medical and prescription coverage, as well as routine dental, vision, and hearing. Learn more at gethumana.com. Humana, a more human way to healthcare. Humana is a Medicare Advantage HMO and PPO organization with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in any Humana plan depends on contract renewal.
Loud. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Jay.
Boy, lots to get to today. The Vikings win the game yesterday in London by 6-23-17. Your thoughts on the Vikes now at 5-0?
Yep, 5-0, way ahead of any realistic expectations heading into the bye, and like perhaps getting TJ Hawkinson back for their, game against Detroit in 2 weeks. So a lot of great stuff there. They find another way to win. Van Ginkel with another return touchdown, 2 touchdowns in 5 Vikings games. They get after Rodgers. They end up holding the Jets 17 points. Reichert ends up coming through again. I mean, a lot of good stuff. 2 concerns. Number one, Aaron Jones' hip injury. If it's a minor thing and he's back, no big deal, but that's something to watch. His team's I looked it up. I think the Packers last year were 5-0 when he had 20 carries, and they were 5-9 when he didn't. So he's a big key. The offense did not look the same once he left. The other thing is that, Darnold had an incredible month of September, and he had his first game in October was not very good. He did not play well yesterday. Now he's up against a very good defense. Defense decided to rough up the Vikings pass catchers and just accept some penalties. But Darnold did not look very good or very efficient yesterday. His worst game this season. It would follow a pattern that he set in New York and in Carolina, where he plays well in September and falls apart in October. So they need to get him back on, they need to get him back playing the way he was playing previously in time for the Detroit game in 2 weeks.
So you mentioned Aaron Jones and that hip injury. He was off to a great start in that game.
Yep.
There is a noticeable drop-off to Ty Chandler. Do we know, has there been a history of injuries similar to this to Aaron Jones, or is this a brand new one for him?
I don't know. He's a 30-year-old running back in the NFL. He's had all kinds of injuries. This looks like just, took a hit on the hip. I don't think it's a chronic thing. I think it's just a football injury. And O'Connell said his fingers are crossed, which, So, O'Connell saying his fingers are crossed that Jones will be back is an indication that it's not a very serious injury. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to come back in 13 days. It's also an indication that it's not nothing, or else he would say he's going to be fine in 2 weeks. So we'll just have to watch to see how that develops. And Chandler did not play well yesterday. He's not as good as Aaron Jones. We know that. He did have some good games for this team last year down the stretch. So, if he doesn't fumble that one pitch, the Vikings probably go on to win that game fairly handily. So he just needs to get his head in the game because he's capable of being a decent running back.
So you mentioned Hawkinson. He's been practicing with the team. He started to practice late last week.
Yes, and if they, my original thought was, if they have any concerns about him, they're not going to want him to fly to London, and they're not going to want to rush his coming back. But and they wouldn't want him going on that long trip to Los Angeles. But they think he's can be ready. They thought he could be ready by Detroit, so they brought him to London. They had him practice last week, so it really looks like Detroit is the target.
So the Vikings intercept Aaron Rodgers 3 times. You mentioned Van Ginkel's return touchdown, and you had Stephon Gilmore with a game-clinching interception at the end there. What we did see quite a bit is Jets are down. They're throwing the ball more, similar to what we saw with the Packers the previous week, and teams will do that when they're behind. They got to throw the ball to try to get caught up. They were doing it really quick. In fact, they were just not messing around. There's a lot of quick get the ball out from Rodgers. Do you think that this could be a trend that teams might look at that as a way to move the ball against the Vikings?
Yeah, it really alleviates worrying about, who's rushing. And I mean, if you get rid of the ball as quickly as Rodgers did yesterday, then it does neutralize the pass rush somewhat. But there are answers to that too. If you can force a quarterback to throw very quickly, you can play more press coverage. You can play more physical at the line. and the Vikings have cornerbacks who can handle that. And they also have Van Ginkel lurking around, ready to pick off short passes. So I do think that is a logical strategy for most teams. Now, Detroit wants to punish you with the run and set up play action and get the ball downfield. So I don't think Detroit's just going to come out and throw 3-yard passes. They want to get Jamison Williams open deep. They want to get Ross St. Brown open on crossing patterns. So I don't think you'll see the Lions just get rid of it as quickly as Rodgers did yesterday.
Jim, the Gopher football team upset Southern California Saturday night at TCF Bank or at Huntington Bank Stadium. Your thoughts on the Gophers getting a big win over USC?
I mean, their biggest win in a while, and they looked like the better team, really, which is an impressive thing to say. 2 weeks ago or however many weeks ago, they get bludgeoned by Iowa. You look at the schedule, say, man, this could end up being a disaster of a season. Then they give themselves a chance to win at Michigan, and then they played great against USC. So, I think we can say that PJ has this team, at least right now, headed in the right direction. Now it's sports. Maybe that was their one epic effort of the year, and they'll go back to having trouble. But it was an impressive night. And what stood out to me, Jay, is you're playing USC, one of the 5 greatest college football programs of all time. They have they spent an incredible amount of money on their head coach, Lincoln Riley. They're recruiting out of a place that produces tons of good athletes. They can get people coming there from across the country. They're a rich program. And I thought the Gophers had the 2 best players on the field. I thought that Darius Taylor and Coy Parrish were the 2 best players on the field. That says something.
You bring up Darius Taylor. I mean, huge game, 150 yards rushing, led the team in receiving as well. Is he the type of guy that, because I think this is just his second year. He'd have to play at least one more year, I believe, before he'd be eligible to go to the NFL. But, man, he looks like an NFL-type talent.
He really reminds me of Le'Veon Bell. Big, strong, runs upright, but doesn't get hit very hard despite that. And very patient in reading his blocks and cutting off of his blocks. And, there have been great running backs with all different styles. Emmitt Smith wanted to hit the hole before you ever saw him. Barry Sanders wanted to dance and make people miss and take chances. He's the greatest running back who ever took a lot of 5-yard losses. Jim Brown was just bigger and stronger than the competition. Le'Veon Bell was one of the most scientific runners we've ever seen. He would just stand behind his blockers and wait for the defender to choose which way he was going to go, and he cut the other way. It takes a lot of guts, a lot of patience, and that's kind of how Darius Taylor runs.
How about Parrish? He's just a true freshman from ESCO. Yep. They've used him a little bit on special teams. He's been playing on defense. What's the high end on him?
He looks like an NFL player. That was an incredible interception he made at the end. He also has the best punt return they've had in years. He's one of those players, too. He doesn't look like he's running all that fast, but he makes up ground on people. Instincts, can hit. He looks really good.
The Minnesota Lynx won on Friday but lost yesterday, so there's a Game 5 that'll be tomorrow night at Target Center against Connecticut. Your thoughts on the Lynx games on Friday and Sunday?
Yeah, so incredibly intense, physical, kind of nasty series. Connecticut is a very physical team. They also talk trash, and it has been quite a physical, emotional series. DeWanna Bonner got it into it with Cheryl Reeve during the game yesterday. There was a kind of an incident where I don't think Cheryl liked the way the Sun players were celebrating in the Target Center open spaces after they won Game 1. The Lynx looked like they had kind of taken control of the series. They could not. And here I wrote about it today. The Lynx are the best 3-point shooting team in the WNBA. To start the second half, they missed 10 straight threes. And that's pretty much the game. And they also didn't defend Connecticut as well as they had been previously, giving up 82 points. They're a 3-and-D team, and they didn't make threes, and they didn't play good defense. It's that simple.
And they're going to play deciding Game 5 tomorrow night. Target Center. This should be another competitive game, huh?
Yeah. It's by the nature of these two teams, it's going to be a very physical, competitive game. The Lynx need to hit 3-pointers. That's their the route to offensive efficiency, hitting three-pointers. Bridge Carlton, who's been a great three-point shooter all year, went 2 for 11 from 3 in Game 4. That's probably the difference.
Some other things going on. Thad Levine, the former Twins general manager, decides to step away from the organization. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. When he first came in with Falvey, he was kind of the team spokesman, and he was very visible. He was very vocal, very accessible, and seemed to have a big role in the organization. Since then, at some point, I think the Twins brass went to Falvey and said, listen, you're making the decision. You should probably be the person answering questions about the decisions instead of having Thad always out there. So Thad kind of receded a little bit. And I think since then, I'm just not sure he has an obvious role in that front office anymore. Falvey makes the final decisions. He's the team spokesman. They have assistant general managers who are deep into analytics. They've hired more and more analytics people. They've gotten rid of some of their old school holdovers. And I think Thad obviously turned down some opportunities. He could have interviewed for the Red Sox job. He could have interviewed for the Phillies job. Those are great jobs. He decided to stay in Minnesota. I think he realized that he didn't really have a primary role here anymore, and he didn't want to just hang around, a place where he wasn't really giving that much input or being asked for that much input. He's a really good guy. I'm sure he's very well connected in the baseball world. I could see him latching on with a different team. I could see him working with an agency. I could see him starting his own company. I'm not sure where he's going to go from here, but I think he just wanted to bow out before anybody kicked him out.
Baseball playoffs yesterday, the Phillies dramatically come back. They beat the Mets. The Padres beat the Dodgers. Those series are both tied 1 apiece. In the American League, Tigers and Guardians are going to play today. So are the Royals and Yankees. The home team won Game 1 of those 2 series. Your thoughts on the baseball playoffs so far?
I don't know that I have anything too insightful to say about them. I mean, it's just, you're just talking about a bunch of very different teams playing short series. I don't know. I mean, I'm really interested in the Padres and the Dodgers. That's just a great rivalry. The Padres are a small market team that decided to spend a lot of money. The Dodgers are the ultimate big market team, and that series is tied 1-1. And as I always say to people who say that money is everything in baseball, Dodgers have won 1 World Series since 1985 or something. So you can buy competitiveness, you cannot buy a championship. Royals and Yankees, obviously we expect the Yankees to win that series. It'll be really to see if the Royals can make it competitive today.
Circling back to the NFL for a moment, both the Packers and Bears were able to win games yesterday, so they're 3-2. Boy, this division looks really tough.
It does, and Jordan Love looked like he was much sharper yesterday than he was coming off the injury against the Vikings, and then Caleb Williams looked much better yesterday than it looked previously. Now, it was against Carolina, but he did throw the ball well, and he did move well in the pocket. And he didn't really. His main flaw is that when he is under a lot of pressure, he will throw the ball up for grabs, and he didn't do that yesterday. He managed pressure well, he managed the pocket well, he scrambled well, and he does have talent. So I don't know if beating Carolina means anything, but at least he looked like an NFL quarterback yesterday.
All right, Jim, what do you got in your podcasts?
Full slate is up at talknorth.com. We have just a lot of stuff. I still recommend Dawn Mitchell's show and her recent interview with Chris Hawkey. We've also had great interviews for many months going back. You can find the archive, Randy Shaver's new high school football show, Mike Grimm on the Gophers. We have some plans to expand the network even farther, some new shows here in the next few months, and everything's at talknorth.com.
All right, Jim. Thank you. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Thanks, Jay.
It's Jim Souhan, Star Tribune sports columnist, joining us every weekday morning at this time. Follow him on Twitter at SouhanStrib. Check out his latest column at Star Tribune or his podcast at talknorth.com. Jim, once again today, is brought to you by the Green Mill in downtown St. Cloud. Next on WJON, World and National News from ABC.